Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Review Den. We'll be starting a new year and new season with something a little heavier than usual, but it covers topics very special to me, namely video games as art and unique forms of storytelling. This is This War of Mine. A bloviating, self-important Chicago movie reviewer once said that video games have the artistic value of a bowel movement. And after composing myself,
Hey, we're all friends here, right? Easy.
I will politely disagree. And not just on a surface level either. Obviously, games can tell incredible stories in between the action-y bits, and the creation of entire worlds from lines of code is an art in itself. But no, I'm talking about when the game, in its entirety, is the storytelling. And This War of Mine is a great example of this. See, if you're a dunce like me who buys games based on their screenshots, this looks like a standard dollhouse-style survival game, like Fallout Shelter or Mr. Prepper. During the day, you build and maintain your home base. At night, you scavenge for more resources. But while those games use the survival label kinda loosely, the losing state is mostly having to wait to build more resources. This war really is about survival. Even in the best circumstances, you'll be scraping the bottom of the barrel just to get by. A barrel which has been scraped by everyone else trying to survive. Which is appropriate given its background. This war is based on or inspired by the Bosnian War, specifically the Siege of Sarajevo, but its message is universal. Not just that war is terrible, that should be obvious, but that it's the civilians who always suffer the worst. Many reviewers have made the comparison, and yeah, it's accurate, that here you're not a super soldier armed with 32-man kill streak memes. Here you're an elderly school teacher, a handyman, or a child who can't provide for themselves. It's war from the unseen perspective, where winning is surviving another day, and the choices you have to make are rarely easy. In your shelter, you'll need to provide the basic necessities for your survivors: food, warmth, and protection from harm. Problem is, there's never enough resources for everything. Keeping everyone full requires food every day, which is far beyond what you'll find, so you'll have to make do staying hungry and eating the bare minimum to hold off starvation. Staying warm when winter hits requires plenty of firewood, but you'll also need that to build and protect your shelter. Do you risk a colder night where your survivors might get sick or even freeze to death so you can hold off bandits? You'll have to make those choices, and the consequences are never just one-and-done affairs. Sickness can get progressively worse if untreated, and can spread to everyone in the shelter. Wounds from bandit raids or combat can take a survivor out of action for weeks and affect everyone's mental state. And all of these things interact. Wounds, sickness, and oppression all feed off each other, meaning one small loss can build into a brutal death spiral for your shelter. It's terrible stuff. Even scavenging presents its own moral quandaries. Some locations are neutral ground, you might find squatters trying to keep warm, but you can take what you need with no issue. But many will be guarded by militia or local inhabitants. Militia or thugs will guard the best resources, but they will always outnumber and outgun you. With stealth and patience, you might get what you need, but one single mistake is all it takes to lose that survivor. Then there are the locals. These spots will have survivors just like you, and while you can steal from or even kill innocent families, it will destroy the mental state of your survivors. Yeah, you kept Grandpa from starving, but he hates you for it. You became the very murderers you were trying to hold off. And again, everything compounds. A mentally spiraling shelter can result in inaction, abandonment, even domestic beatings. You can bounce back from hunger, wounds, or sickness, but you'll never come back from crossing that line, staring into the abyss and all that. Even in best-case scenarios where you manage to juggle limited resources and keep your shelter tranquil, outside forces or simple bad luck can make things go south. Winter storms may block access to resource-rich areas, or nightly raids can injure your survivors and run you out of supplies. It's frustrating when it ruins a good run, but it's not meant to be fair. This isn't portraying war as it's idealized, it's portraying war as it winds up being, at least for everyone not in uniform. Now, at the end of the day, this is still a video game with win states and even exploits. Once you learn the locations, where the best resources are, and the best order to build utilities, you can get ahead of the curve, but I would truly encourage first-timers to experience this without looking up help, even if it means some painful losing runs, because that really is the message here. In war, there are no save games or game guides. You mostly just lose. But if you manage to keep your head above water, a ceasefire will eventually be declared, and you'll be given an epilogue for your shelter and its inhabitants based on your actions. And that really is the key takeaway here, both for this game and for games as art and storytelling. It's all about choices, interaction, the one thing that truly sets games apart from movies, books, or music. Sure, it's fun to watch Keanu Reeves go around shooting people or Cary Grant making doughy eyes at Audrey Hepburn, but those are passive experiences. In games, narrative-based ones anyway, you are put into the position of having to face both choices and consequences. You're the one the story is happening to. And sure, many games do relegate the player's role simply to the action-y bits. The story and any moral decisions are all out of your hands or during cutscenes, and in that sense, those are more like traditional movies, but even so, the fact that you had a hand in driving the plot forward can't be underestimated. But in the case of this war of mine, all of the game is the storytelling. Did you burn those books to keep warm? Did you send an unruly survivor to their death to protect the rest of your shelter? Did you turn in your neighbors for a few precious supplies? Far worse things happen to real people in these situations. That a game puts the burden of decision-making, even if in a virtual sense, on you, is a style of storytelling that I truly believe can't be matched by traditional methods. In fact, it's actually kind of frustrating that the game industry does such a poor job of representing itself, or kowtows to Hollywood culture. Video games are a bigger industry than Hollywood and have surpassed their creativity in many ways. They should be coming to us. Because ultimately they are about the same things, storytelling and entertainment. At the end of the day, we're not John Wick, nor did we live through the Bosnian War. But in a video game, you saw the choices that could be made in those situations, and were forced to make some yourself. You were part of the story being told, and got to see the ramifications of your actions. I'm not saying that books and movies aren't amazing forms of storytelling. I'm just saying that when you're the one responsible for everything that winds up happening, it just hits a little different. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. I know this is a little different from my usual stuff, but I'm pretty passionate about games as art, and this really feels like a great example for that argument. This War of Mine is from 11-Bit Studios, another great Polish developer. I think, in fact, they made this free and required reading or playing in Polish schools. They also made the Anomaly series and I think Frostpunk, so hey, cool deal. For my Review Den review of this simply as a video game, I'd say this is a solid, aesthetically unique, and very replayable survival shelter game. There are plenty of scenarios to choose from, and each will randomize locations you can visit to some extent, or you can adjust the parameters and create your own. There's no tutorials, but given the subject matter, I think they would have felt out of place, and each run is short enough for you to learn the game after a few tries. The PC experience is entirely mouse-driven and very intuitive, except in combat where it can get messy, and the direct control of console gamepads feels better. The graphics have a unique pencil-drawn aesthetic and are appropriately desaturated, while the music is very moving and beautiful. If you want all the add-ons and content, you'll want to look for the Final Cut on PC and latest systems. And there we go. Thank you all so much for watching. If you'd like to help a small channel grow, would you be my next subscriber and maybe watch my last video? The algorithm just kind of hated it for some reason. Thank you, and remember to keep going no matter what, because you are worth it.